Hello, and welcome to the Asylum. I said it right that time.
Yes,
I
you did.
I am your host, Don, and with me today is, as always, my co-host Jeremiah.
We got to pad this episode out because it's about zombies. Clearly, means we got to pad it out.
Yep. So we called an audible at the end of our last video that we were not going to do the trilogy of 11, 11, 11, 12, 12, 12, 13, 13, 13. And so we respun the wheel. We
Until
pulled
November. We didn't say the year, but some November we're going to
some
do it.
November of 3011. We will talk about that movie. So we spun the wheel again, and we ended up with Zoombies, which we then decided to call another audible, and we're also going to talk about Zoombies 2 coming up. So we're going to cover both of them before we spin the wheel again. I don't know. Are we going to spin the wheel again, Jer?
No, because we have Halloween night next.
Yeah, and then 11, 11, 11, 12, 12, 12, 13, 13, 13. So our next, like, four videos.
We didn't say a year we're going to cover those. We just said November.
Oh, God. I do not like
So we're covering Zombies as our follow-up to Invasion of the Pod People.
And to start off, this is a much better film. Just putting that out there.
Let's just say it's a good enough Asylum movie where they made a prequel the next year and a spin-off the year after that.
Aquarium of the
with
Damned.
money.
Yeah. So Zombies is about a zombie apocalypse, sort of, that
It's
takes
freaking
place
Jurassic Park in world with zoo creatures.
Yeah, instead of dinosaurs, essentially. So the animals of the zoo become zombies, and it's non-communicable to people, and apparently elephants. Except,
Except it is.
yeah,
But isn't. But not those CGI elephants, though. It has to be a real elephant. CGI elephant. Nope, that doesn't work either.
never. So it opens up with a
Amazingly.
fantastic opening scene where they are letting, it was a lemur or was it a chimpanzee? Oh, it was a chimpanzee. Yeah, monkeys. It was monkeys. They're like looking at these monkeys, and the monkeys are freaking out. So they give the monkey a sedative, and it passes out, and it's about to die. So the doctor,
and they give him epinephrine.
Yeah, so they give him epinephrine, which apparently you can't legally give to a monkey, according to this movie, which is news to me. I did not know that, but I'm also not a vet. If my friend Amelia, if you watch this, can you let me know if that's a thing or not? Because I would like to know, and I'm not going to look it up.
It's probably not a thing.
But yeah, so they're going to give the monkey epinephrine, and instead it turns into a zombie, attacks them, and latches onto a woman's face, rips out her eyeballs, and then throws them. It's just it is a wonderful way to open a movie. I loved it.
Yeah, once you see this little CGI monkey, which is at least as good a quality as the CGI monkeys in Jumanji.
Yeah, no, it's
crawl up, rip out someone's eyeballs, and chuck them at people. Yeah, I knew this movie would be entertaining, and it goes from there to quite literally be Jurassic Park / it's a mockbuster of Jurassic World. We already know this, but it literally is a mockbuster of Jurassic Park, Jurassic World to the point where they call it out a lot, and the last shot is literally them on a frickin' helicopter escaping the park. They control room stuff. There's a Claire in there. It is most definitely that, and I think that helps it because they embrace it fully.
Yeah,
and I think the actors embrace it.
They 100% embraced what they were doing. There were a lot of tongue-in-cheek lines that I really appreciated in the movie, where it's just like the chances of something dangerous escaping his lab is impossible. He works with monkeys, and then it's just like, all right. And then later on, they're like, be careful, and she's like, be careful. This isn't Jurassic Park. I was just like, oh my God, thank you for being self-aware. What I also really enjoyed about this movie, so instead of them bringing in like a specialist like in Jurassic Park, it's a bunch of interns that are helping out at this Eden Zoo, and
with the specialists.
With specialists, and they were nice enough to put a name tag on each one of the interns so you can't forget anybody's name, which I really appreciate.
And they assign one for like the bird aviary with all these rare endangered birds. They assign one to basically be the main person's intern to help her in the main office. There's one with the bigger animals, the monk, the gorilla, and so on.
I think that was AJ. I liked AJ. And
now,
then there's Gage, who didn't have a job, so then he just became a security guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do find it amusing though. So they like all these interns really, they hint that there's backstory for some of them. Like there's a reason why one of them is there because of like they got in trouble with something sorority wise and went there instead, but they don't care enough.
Yeah,
we don't care. They don't care.
We don't care. They know we don't care. They want us to know that there is a reason, but they know we don't actually care what the reason is.
And there's like a 10-year-old girl there because they're apparently too isolated for babysitters, and she likes the zoo. Well, she likes the gorilla.
Poor Kifo.
And the animals. And so they go out to this alarm at this lab is going off, and so they go out. They send one guard who they see originally going by them anyway, like on a bicycle.
Yeah.
And then he's not responding, so they go out there. They're grabbing non-lethal weapons, like they would. It's a zoo.
Except for Lizzie, the new security guard, who's too cool for school, so she carries a friggin' handgun. And they're like, yes. That's not legal. And she's like, I don't care. And they're just like, okay, sassy black lady, you got it. And thus she gets a gun. And it helps.
And they go to this lab, and like if anything, like they're trying to open the door when this guy is clearly holding the door shut.
Clearly just like don't
while bleeding all over it. And like, no, we get you out. We get you out. No, he's holding it shut. And they go in there, and the guy is dead. The other guy has like a needle. The security guy has a needle in his eyeball.
It was embedded in his skull. They embedded a syringe in this man's skull. Why? Because monkeys do that, I guess. I don't.
And monkeys are trying to escape. I do actually like the monkey escape because it's like one of them jumps out, gets on top of one of them. Another one like gets in the doorway and that's like sacrifices his body so the other ones can escape. The one that's on top of one of the characters, they just put him in a coat and just beat him against the wall. Like if you're afraid of like harm to animals, don't watch this movie. Period. Do not watch it. They don't hold back.
They're CGI animals, but there's a lot of animal violence in this movie.
They don't hold back anything.
But yeah, so there's the monkeys, and then somehow this virus gets communicated from the monkeys to everything else in the zoo, except
I have no idea how. It just happens. It's like it blows from their breath.
Yeah, except the birds, and for some reason the elephants do not get it because
the birds didn't get it right away because they were in the aviary. They were sealed in.
Yes, but the elephants, they just didn't get it.
Couldn't be bothered.
So it moves on from there, and we get to the next, probably the best death.
So they know something bad's coming. So they look into the trees and see some of these interns hear that something bad's coming. They look into the trees and then they see these monkeys just flying in there. So like, we should probably run. And of course, the expert gets immediately murdered. And then these interns climb into a tree, which you think would be safe, except the fact that there's monkeys swinging through them. But no. What comes out? Giraffes. 2 giraffes, who then pick them out of the tree, ripping some of them in half and eating them because that's what giraffes do. And then the ranger guys come and start shooting these animals in the head, one of which is carrying someone. So they're shooting him with a shotgun while carrying a person and shoot this giraffe in the head, which of course kills the giraffe.
And then she steals the Jeep.
It freaks out and steals the Jeep. Once you know giraffes are literally ripping people in half and eating them, yes, that is a win. And I will say, I will compliment something. A lot of these animals, they clearly, at least for a lot of the shots, use real animals for reference. Clearly not when they're eating them.
Yeah.
But they use real animals for reference.
Yeah, there was a lot of effort put into this, surprisingly so for an Asylum film. There was a lot of effort put into like making this feel real for what is
ridiculous.
Such a silly, ridiculous film. What was funny, like, because Jeremiah watched it before me. He beat me by like an hour, and so I was watching him while I was watching it. And I was like in the opening or when the interns are coming in, the lady who runs the zoo was like talking to him on the phone, on the megaphone in the bus. And one of the girls is being rude and she's on her phone. So she confiscates her phone. And I was like, oh, so it's going to be her fault that everything bad happens because they can't contact anyone. Turns out, no, that's not at all what the case was. They immediately called the cops. They were immediately like, we need help. Send the police. And then the police took their sweet time to show up, which I thought was realistic, honestly, because the explanation they gave was like the police were like, we need permission from the CDC before we can go in there. And she's just like, that's fair.
I do find it entertaining though. So the guy who directed this, his name is Glenn Miller. Just before, and he's in other. He is part of Mickey Dolenz' band in Mega Python versus Gatoroid. He's in some of these other movies. But just before doing this, he directed and starred in a movie called Santa Claus about little kitty cats at Christmas time. And then he did this movie, which was big enough that they made a video game for it as well.
There's a Zoombies video game?
Escape from the Zoombies video game. And they made a prequel and a spin-off. Yeah. I think he deserved it because I think for the budget he had, which was clearly not very much. Yeah. He had a lot of fun with this one. My favorite scene in this entire movie, though,
it's got to be
made me laugh so hard.
Is it the little girl?
I woke up. That one child. So this little girl, her mom runs the zoo, and she hears noise and she sees a koala, which I thought she was going to touch the koala's butt because you don't touch koalas' butts. They're all basically drug addict bears. Don't touch it. She touches his nose. And then this freaky koala, think of the way koalas look like when they're all wet, roars at her. And then it cuts away. Mommy runs in there because she hears screaming. And then you just see, she goes in this room, and this girl has like a bat, and there's body parts of this koala just splattered all over the room. And she's like, he was a bad koala.
What was it she said? I don't want to play with the animals anymore. Oh, jeez.
There's no, I will say, there is no like distractingly bad acting in this movie. Like, of course, acting off CGI, but like everything works for this movie.
About the only thing was when Lizzie was aiming her gun, she was clearly not pointing at anything, and
because there's nothing there.
And as per usual with most CGI and Asylum films, when it comes to guns, there's no recoil, so she just is firing away with no recoil at all.
And then Amber, the one who runs away with the Jeep, runs to the gate. She's like, let me out. Like, there's no way she is opening that gate.
For real.
Zero way.
Use your brain. I like that she survived that, though.
And then she's like, look left. No, look left. No, look around you. And then she tries climbing the gate. Lions get her. And then somehow she escapes, drives the Jeep away to where the other ones are, even though her body's like barely held together, and then dies. And there's another death in this movie, which is probably almost one of the. I would have accepted it if this happened and he just exploded. It's on the zip line when AJ falls off because the zip line's breaking and he splats on the ground. If he just exploded when he landed, I would have gone with it because it's that type of movie.
But instead, he splatted, which was just as good.
I don't want to tell everything that's in this movie, but this movie even has frickin' devil birds, which are hilarious. You know, oh no, don't get me. He got me. Oh, got me. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. As the parrot's repeating it, and all these birds like pecking in the glass as they're trying to get out. Even a zombie bald eagle that's burning on fire that somehow when he shoots it just kind of disintegrates into magic dust.
It's me. It's nesting in me.
I will say there is no Asylum movie that we have seen so far that is as fun as this movie is.
Oh God, no! This
poster's pretty terrible though. This is a pretty terrible poster.
I'm seeing nothing but a blank screen, Jer. I don't.
Oh, you can't see it?
Yeah, I'm not. If it's showing up on yours, it's fine because you record. But it just showed up.
If it's not showing up on yours, it's not showing up at all. Let me try that one more time.
Yeah. So, the flaming bald eagle that just explodes was also
Does that show it all now?
nothing. Do we gotta end the call and start over again? You think?
No, I can just insert images. I don't think I really need to, but they clearly use real animals as reference. You see a lot of real animals in this movie. There's no way, like even there's a shot where they get all surrounded by lions. These are not the CGI lions from Zombie Apocalypse. Like, I think they used real lions in there somehow before they attacked.
They look surprisingly realistic. I do love that the lions managed to sneak up on them and surround them with absolutely no cover at all. All of a sudden, like she's on the phone, and then all of a sudden, there's 4 lions around her, and just like...
So, and of course the gorilla, without getting me into the gorilla. The gorilla is probably the worst looking of the animals that they have.
Definitely.
But like this movie, you can tell they had fun. You can tell why people talked about it. The trailer was a blast. You can tell that why this movie people just had a good time.
Yeah, this was.
Let me explain where the virus comes from, because really it doesn't matter.
No, but they do.
No one is
equal.
Yeah. Yes.
Sort of.
I don't know why this has a 3.3 out of 10, even though Llamageddon is 3.8. This movie's a blast. It's just fun. This is just a fun, ridiculous movie.
Yeah.
That is basically Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, down to the administrator with protecting kids. It's apparently filmed in the same building that they filmed Biodome, which makes sense.
Really? Yeah, that does make sense.
Apparently one of the giraffes is a hand puppet. The one that you see is biting is a freaking hand puppet.
Huh.
Who was operated. The giraffes, when they have that scene where they're biting the people, the hand puppet's operated by Matthew Lillard, who was invited to the set by the director because he's very close friends with the director of this movie.
Matthew Lillard as in Shaggy Doo.
Yes.
As in Stu Macher.
As in Matthew Lillard.
What?
Also, I found it funny. The director, the screenwriter, in an interview was saying, "So I was trying to find deeper inspiration for this movie. And in case you haven't figured out, it's Jurassic Park and the birds." Like, well, I think everyone figured that out, dude. Everyone.
Thanks, bud.
And Zombievers. And he says, "I liked what Jurassic Park was trying to do, but I felt there wasn't enough CGI elephants, and so I put them in."
We do love our elephants, Jeremiah. So
this was originally created, just so you know, to be a fan sequel to Jurassic Park. Dr. Ellen Rogers, the main female, was supposed to be the granddaughter of Dr. Hammond,
which explains her whole like my grandfather would be so disappointed in me, etc., thing.
Yes.
Cool. So what you're saying
there's also supposed to be an army of undead dolphins in this movie that they had to cut out, which is probably why Aquarium of the Dead happened.
It's fair.
Because they wanted the undead dolphins in here, but the zombie dolphins, apparently they had to cut them and repurpose them for 5-headed shark attack, which we'll get to eventually.
So what you're telling me is that Zoombies is to Jurassic Park as 50 Shades of Grey is to Twilight.
Sure. And AJ in this movie, the one who fell from the zip line and exploded and died, he was supposed to be played by Clay Matthews of the Green Bay Packers, who was too busy filming Pitch Perfect 2.
He does
playing football.
Does look like him though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He's a football player for sure.
Apparently, Eden's park name was not picked though as Eden, Garden of Eden type of. It's picked as an anagram for need, the central theme within the film. I call BS.
Given the opening explanation of the park, I don't believe it for a second.
But the koala does look actually pretty darn good. Like there's green growing on it, which is of course that happens with koalas. But this movie looks much better than it should.
Surprisingly good, yeah.
And I understand though that some people, I'm reading reviews, some people really hate this movie because animal abuse is all over.
Yeah.
If you love animals, this is not a movie for you.
No,
monkeys get beaten to death, giraffes get shot in the head. They love their elephants. And there's a whole scene where they're just picking off endangered birds with shotguns.
With surprisingly amazing aim. By
These
the
are
way,
28 of the most endangered birds on the planet.
God.
This movie's fun. This movie's a blast, and so we went straight to the sequel prequel.
Yeah. So wait. On our sliding scale of Asylum films, I never thought after seeing Avengers Grimm that I was going to say this, but this is probably the best Asylum film I have ever seen.
It's the best.
It's phenomenal. I would recommend this movie to anybody. It was hilarious. If you can't tell, it was just a great film, and I would strongly recommend it. Jared, thoughts? I think
it's the best. It is the best Asylum movie that we've seen so far.
I think you were about halfway through it, and you texted me, and you're like, "This movie's better than Shark Side of the Moon," and I was like, "Holy crap, I gotta watch it," because we know how much you love your Shark Side of the Moon.
Because it was ridiculous. This movie is definitely more so, and yes. So we liked it so much we watched the prequel sequel. So the Zoombies 2 is a prequel that takes place Africa-ish?
Not really sure, because the guy's got a Australian accent.
But it's a animal refuge. Being that how many animals are in there, I'm assuming it's supposed to be Africa, but they don't really say or care.
Well, they have a so
there's a game. So it's about poachers are going to this place to get all these animals that are conveniently in there for them, as they put it. Apparently they're going after porcupines. Why? You can go to Alaska and get porcupines off the street. Going after porcupines and elephants, and they created their own tranquilizer, which apparently
green goo tranquilizer.
Because apparently turns these animals crazy, because like they use it on meerkats and porcupines, and those meerkats go nuts.
Yeah.
And like rip apart a ton of people, and then the poachers like would rather much be captured. Yeah, I find it funny though. These women though get captured taking out porcupine, but like it seemed almost if the guy waited for her to actually shoot the porcupine point blank, versus just stopping her from shooting him point blank.
It's true. The game warden, I don't know what that actor's name is, but that dude was huge. That man, it was an intimidatingly built man, and I would hire him in a heartbeat to be my ranger at my refuge. Because
his name is Jonathan Buckley. He's from Tasmania. He is best in presenting role of the summer primetime series Siberia. He hosts transportation technology series on Discovery called Translogic. He is in the Mayans. Apparently he does voices in Call of Duty.
I can see it.
But yeah, he is a big man.
He's a big
and so this one
apparently he gets down, if you know what I'm saying.
So this movie takes place in a refuge versus a
zoo.
And I will say the CGI takes a hit.
It definitely was not as good.
Especially there's a scene late in this movie where they have all these animals together and they all look pretty terrible. Though the stampede of them does move better than anything in my Megapython versus Gatoroid or any of these other ones where they have stampeding CGI, because they clearly cared.
The scene where all the animals are approaching the building, but the elephant, it looks like it's like sliding
on roller skates.
Because they had to make it move at the same speed. Because in the prequel, elephants are not immune to being turned into zombies, but in the original they are. You froze. You still there?
I'm still here.
You're frozen.
I'm frozen.
Yeah, it looked like you were about to flip me off. But yeah, so
I'm frozen now.
You're like moving at like a frame per 30 seconds right
Let me stop the call and we'll come back in.
Yeah.
So elephants on roller skates.
Elephants on roller skates, because they had to make the elephant move at the same speed as everything else, but the elephant obviously has a much bigger gait. So that was kind of silly. The crocodile coming out of the toilet.
That was amazing. Okay, so I will say the monkeys in the previous one are meerkats in this one. And the best meerkat scene, other than the fact that like these meerkats just pop out of nowhere and rip people's faces off, but the best meerkat scene is when they're poking a body and he comes out like a freaking xenomorph. Right. And then he just like beats the thing to death. The game warden is like, after he was mocking people for being scared of the meerkats and anteaters, he freaking beats a meerkat to death, and then an anteater comes out and eats someone.
The Toronto, who is like the head guy of the poachers, he doesn't get captured. Everybody else dies except for Giselle and her friend who had the camera, and then Toronto. So Giselle and the other girl get captured because they went a separate way. And so he's off with the other guys and they get attacked by the meerkats. So he was just like, all right, I'm getting out of here. So he books it straight to like the headquarters in there to be like, I would rather be arrested than eaten alive by meerkats. And so they pull him in
and they mock him.
And they proceed. He's like, they're dead. Everybody's dead. They're killing everybody. And they're like, who? And he's like, the meerkats. And they just proceed to mock him for saying that meerkats are killing people. And then they find a vape pen on him. And they're like, oh, this is bad for you. It's the vaping.
You're as high as a kite, because the last time we caught poachers in here, they were high as a kite and thought that animals were chasing them through the woods.
So then they're like, you're gonna show us. You're gonna show us. He's like, I am not leaving this building. Like, no way. So they trank him and throw him in the Jeep. And then they take him out. And then at the same time, they had a baby hippo that they were going to reintroduce to the wild. So two other people, Katie and another dude, go to introduce this hippo to the wild, which comes back way later in the movie to matter. But at that point, not important, because they don't know that something's going on. So they're like, yeah, just go let the hippo go, because today's the day. We're not going to let that get ruined. And then Toronto and the game warden, whose name I can't remember. What was his name?
Randy,
yeah, Randy. So Randy and Toronto are out there, and there's like a meerkat. He's like, there's a meerkat. And they have the meerkat come out of the dead body, and they're like, oh, God. And they like beat it to death. And then an anteater, an aardvark, comes around the corner like, oh, look, an aardvark. And that one proceeds to eat unnamed game warden 1.
And then also when they're dropping off the hippo, they like run over another meerkat that's like plastered underneath their car. Like, well, he was clearly already dead. And then after they release the hippo, they hear all this stampeding, and they look up, and there's all these animals coming towards them. So they're running, and they jump, and the Jeep comes to pick them up just in time. But for some reason, because the one's on the back, the Jeep won't start. I don't understand the logic. And then he lets go, and the Jeep suddenly starts, and he just gets splattered, like
gets smashed into the ground. It's a great visual.
He pops like a balloon.
It was great.
And then they're running away from like rhinoceroses, and they're shooting them with like little pistols. And they let the guy who is a poacher give him a shotgun with apparently unlimited ammunition that never needs to be loaded, and he's just blowing away rhinos while cackling
maniacally the entire time. And KD, the other guy, the black guy that was helping with the rhino, is just like, you're gonna take his cuffs off? You're gonna give this man a gun? Just like commenting the entire time. It's so good.
While they're blowing away a bunch of rhinos. And then they like go over an edge for some reason,
which results in the Jeep dying, and then random game warden number 2 dies from the crash. But the other 3 were perfectly fine. No injuries. Just one guy died. So then they have to make their way back to the refuge, and then at the headquarters, whatever. And then at the same time, they have the porcupine that is transformed into this zombie thing.
2 porcupines that ate their way out of a cage, ate their way out of their cages with their new acid spit or something.
And they can shoot quills with incredible accuracy. So then the porcupine, one of them attacks like the head lady, and she ends up tasing it, and it explodes.
Well,
And
first of all, she is the worst at closing doors. Some of these things probably would have been solved if she had closed the doors.
she clearly never listened to Panic at the Disco.
Because she has two of the poachers in there with her, locked in. And so then they have the Jurassic Park scene with the raptors in the kitchen.
They remade the Jurassic Park raptor scene
with porcupines.
The porcupine.
And so the porcupines kill her assistant, who apparently just went at it to try to get them with his antidote thing, and they like impaled his brain. And then she kills, tasers do not make you explode.
Unless you're a porcupine, I guess.
And then somehow gets into the other room, the locked room. So I guess the locking doors might not have helped. And she's like trying to figure out how to get it off this lady's face. And so she gets like two gloves, cloths, and put them around her hands, because that'll stop you from porcupine quills. And like peels the thing off, and it like rips the whole lady's face off.
The whole face off, and her eyeballs just fall out.
But then you find out in this whole thing that the other lady, who's played by Tara Strong, but not the Tara Strong that you think of, it's spelled Terra, not Tara. She is like a Ivy League. She went to Princeton and Yale to study chemistry, and was really good at chemistry, but she also liked drugs.
Yeah, because she was
and good. So she dropped out. But she's really good at chemistry, and she made the stuff that gave all the disease anyway by accident. So she comes up with a cure, which they
test on.
I don't know if she missed on purpose with the crocodile.
But we have to talk about her. We have to talk about her dialogue, though. So Giselle, that's the character's name. She has some of the best like lines because she has to interact with the head of the refuge lady, and so like the head of the refuge lady is like nursing her wounds because she's been stabbed with a bunch of porcupine quills, and she's in the locked room with a dead body, and she's just like, "Hey, girl. How you doing? Are you okay? Can you let me out of here? I wouldn't lock you in a room with the dead body of your friend to starve to death." And I just died. I could not stop laughing at this scene. It just killed me.
And she,
oh, girl.
Yeah. And so she's smart, but I think she might have tried to let the other one die from the crocodile. I'm not sure. They end up shooting the crocodile.
She might have done that on purpose because, like, she slips on nothing. She's standing flat-footed, and then her foot goes out from underneath her somehow. And it's just like, that's a little sussy.
And so they try curing a crocodile. They think they do. Later on, it comes out of a toilet.
And then
they need human blood to make the antidote, but not really because it doesn't actually work.
Can we talk about the fact that Game Warden Randy beat a crocodile to death with a fire extinguisher?
Of course. Cat, once you beat a meerkat, crocodiles are easy.
He shot it. He's like, bullets are doing. He's like, shot it a bunch of times, and then he gets out, and they're like, "Do you have any more bullets?" He's like, "Doesn't matter. My bullets just bounced right off him." And then he proceeds to beat it to death with a fire extinguisher.
We also get a scene where they're in kayaks going the slowest I've ever seen kayaks go across a river.
And somehow
kayaks can go pretty fast.
And somehow the moment they stop paddling, the kayak stops moving. Like,
it's how it works, And but you get Katie, who gets killed by a hippo doing the mosasaur scene from Jurassic World, where the assistant lady gets thrown up in the air and it eats her. But apparently a hippo eats him like that.
The CGI though for that,
amazing.
The kayak.
Think of Die Hard 2 when he's in the plane seat and it explodes, and goes up. That level of awesomeness, but involving a hippo and a kayak. Am I right or am I right?
It was so great.
And then they go inside this building that I'm pretty sure all those animals could have just charged straight through, and they still don't know how to lock doors.
It had so many windows, like
They still don't know how to lock doors, and they find out they need to use human blood to, get to pass this thing. So Giselle's gonna put inside her, but she gets killed pretty quickly. And then Toronto is gonna do it. And so what they do is they spray him down with pheromone stuff, like
Aerosol.
perfume, which of course never went on them. It's an aerosol. They didn't go on anyone else, just him. And they're going to send him down with stuff to distract him, even though he knows he's not going to cure them, though they apparently think he will. And he goes on a run and waits for them all to come get him.
He's on a motorcycle that belonged to Katie, and he goes riding off, and he says, "Come get your fast food." He's also the one that
gets his vape pen back. They give him back his vape pen because clearly they realize his vape pen is not the evil that turned these animals bad.
And also, he's the one that called them Zoombies. He dropped the name in the movie while they were kayaking, which was great.
And then they try to escape in a helicopter. And this has some of the greatest moments in the movie. So first of all, there's definitely a crotch ferret, as in one of them comes between the main warden's legs right at his crotch. I'm like, he's going to get his crotch bitten right off. It's that type of movie.
Which is fine because there's already had the subplot where he had already knocked up the lady who ran the place. So he doesn't need it,
And then, another one gets chucked out the window anyway. He beats the one by his crotch to death because, that's what he does. He beats animals to death.
What he does, he just beats animals.
And then he tells the other one, lift him up into the propeller. So, first of all, she is laying down at the entrance and there's a meerkat on her. You are not that near the propeller unless your arms are really stretchy. So she either threw him up, which she could have done, but he said lift him up into the propeller, or her arms stretch and then disappear as the thing evaporates into the propeller.
It was a wonderful scene.
And then they find out at the end, oh, this zoo is going to take care of our monkeys for us. That somehow, because when they're flying away, like, oh, look, the cure is working. I don't know how, because not enough animals ate him unless everything literally feasted on his body.
Yeah, right?
Everything wanted to screw his body because he's covered in pheromones and they all wanted to bang him.
It was a terrible plan, period. But they just assumed.
Well, it's like how his idea is like, yeah, they're clearly not all going to eat me. They're just going to follow me. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. Oh, good, rational writing. And then they're like, oh, look, it's all working. They're being cured. And then it shows them delivering monkeys to a zoo, which is where Zoombies is. But the person who ran the zoo is clearly 3 years older and probably had a kid or maybe was pregnant. Time has clearly passed because that is not, they did not use the same actress.
Same actress, but she was clearly, it was clearly 3 years later. Yeah, and it sounded like she kind of knew what was going on, which puts the first movie in a whole different light as far as plot is concerned. Because essentially, it makes her a lot more like John Hammond, where she kind of just ignored the inherent danger of what she was doing, which I thought was an interesting little twist to add to the first movie, because the first movie is just so ridiculous. Yeah.
So the second one, it's not as good as the first.
It's not, no.
But it is definitely an entertaining follow-up.
I would put it
again, there's no one's bad in this movie.
Yeah.
No deaths are bad in this movie. They're all hilarious.
There's no terrible acting. It's not like Invasion of Slot People.
And it looks good. The CGI is a bit worse though, because I think they use a lot more of it.
It seemed like they back the guy who did the CGI tiger from Zombie Apocalypse to do the CGI.
Oh, there's a terrible tiger in this movie, a lion. Terrible. Which is weird because in the previous movie they had real lions, but I think it's probably just where they filmed it, what they had access to.
Yeah.
I say this. I know the spin-off Aquarium of the Dead that we're going to review eventually. That was filmed in 6 days during COVID.
Oof.
So there are definitely restrictions that we're probably going to notice in that one. But this is the Asylum. They don't need extras.
They've never needed them. They never will. So on our
meerkats and porcupines are pretty. If you're terrified of meerkats and porcupines, don't watch this movie.
Yeah, if you can't watch Lion King, don't watch this
or
movie.
Aardvarks. Yeah. If you have a fear of an aardvark.
Good Lord.
I put this pretty close to Zoombies because it's fun, it's breezy. Is it as good? No.
I'm trying to decide if I
but
like
it's still fun.
this or Mega Python versus Gatoroid better.
I like this more because I think this makes the flaws of that movie, especially like the effects, stand out so much more.
I think I would put it right underneath War of the Worlds Annihilation. So
I'll put it above it. But yeah, I had more fun. I had fun with this one. Plus
what?
porcupines.
Let it beat out the mechs? Really?
Did you notice that in some of the scenes, the meerkats literally walk around like raptors, like with the little arm things running around on two legs like that? They literally run around like tiny little raptors to get beaten to death by a giant warden.
I can't believe that you like this better than the mech suits out of Annihilation.
You see, here's the problem. That movie has some terrible acting by its lead.
Again, worst Baldwin.
So, but this movie is fun. It's ridiculous. It's fun. Lots of violence against animals, which I do not condone, but it's fun.
If there's CGI, it's fine.
And is it ridiculous how the heck this leads into the next one? Yeah, you don't need to know more background on how the virus happened. You really should not have known that.
I personally believe it was witchcraft. I think that Giselle cast a spell because when they captured her, she said she was a witch. I think that she cast a spell, realized that it was going to backfire on her, so then she tried to undo it and she couldn't undo it. That is what I accept as the canon explanation for where the zombies come from.
One thing that my brain cannot handle is, so if this is Africa, which it could be because a lot of these creatures need warm temperatures, why in the world are all the poachers wearing like fur coats?
Also, there was a caribou.
I'm sorry. When you show a bunch of giraffes and rhinos and little tigers and elephants, and then there's a caribou in the middle of it, what?
And there were caribou and porcupines, so it could have been anywhere. It's probably like the same island that Jurassic Island took place on. That's my guess.
No, that island has no gravity. You can't feel things coming. You definitely heard and felt creatures in this movie.
That's fair. Like the Stampede, which was actually surprisingly well done.
And there's even a giant python.
There's a giant python, which I appreciate.
That somehow gets killed by the dullest looking machete I've ever seen. Dullest tiny machete.
But I've
ever seen. That literally had no weight to it when it hit the thing.
It's Randy the Game Warden, who is, as we have all decided, an amazing person when it comes to beating animals to death. So
except hippos. He knows better than to try to beat a hippo.
That's fair. He probably didn't actually cut the giant python. He probably beat it to death with a machete because the machete was too dull. Anyway,
what happened to the aardvark? They shot the aardvark, right?
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, so this movie, again, just like
I do appreciate though how at the very beginning they're like, that's animal. We don't use that. Yeah, how they wanted to spray the poachers with animal pheromones because that's what they deserve.
Yeah, check out.
They catch them, and then they brought back the animal pheromone, and they do spray the poacher with them. So of course it's like an aerosol body spray.
Yeah, Axe body spray for animals.
It doesn't get on anyone else.
Yeah, it's clearly a really great aerosol. So if you guys can't tell, just like the first Zoombies movie, we would definitely recommend Zoombies 2. It's not as good as the original, but it is still a pretty entertaining film.
I'd be game to watch more zombie movies. I want them to go to the Arctic.
At some point, we're gonna watch Aquarium of the Dead. So
I want to go to the Arctic though, where we can have like whales and seals, penguins, because they're clearly going to remember penguins don't live up north. They're going to put them up there anyway. Foxes, polar bears, caribou, a moose. I want to see a moose like eating people.
That's terrible.
Barn owl, maybe.
You grew up in Alaska, Jeremiah. A moose eating people is a terrifying prospect.
Yes. Now I need to see a movie of it. Yeah, this is entertaining. I'm game for another one if they need to, though. Honestly, we don't need to know more of the why. I don't care.
Yeah, it's not important at all for what these films are.
They show up. Maybe someone weaponizes this thing and launches and like drops a whole ton of meerkats and monkeys on top of a city. Go for it.
In the Arctic.
Operation Zombie Drop.
Because why not?
Here's how we fight Russia. We're dropping zombie animals on you because why not?
Why not? That's how we're gonna support the Ukraine. So
the caribou, just the caribou. This movie's entertaining. Still Glenn Miller, still the same. A lot of the same people, not the same actors. Actors are still good though. I probably filmed in California like everything else they've done there, and it's very entertaining.
Yep. So as we discussed at the beginning of the video, our next video is going to be Halloween night.
Yep.
Which will release the weekend around Halloween. And then maybe 11, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13.
Maybe you become allergic to that movie when you come back from your trip.
We can't skip it. We watched Treasure Island, which you absolutely, and Moby Dick, both of which you were adamantly against. We have to watch.
Appalled by.
We have to watch 11, 11, 12, 12, 12, 13, 13, 13.
Yeah, at least Moby Dick was watchable.
I was just really hoping that those movies would be way further down the line, but it is what it is. Expect those reviews to be short.
Like Invasion of the Pod People short?
Yeah, like Invasion of the Pod People short.
Well, and then...
okay, thanks,
yeah. Bye. Yep.